So great to see you today. How are you doing
Ooh,
today?
I'm good, good, good. So glad to be back and kind of coming together again for another conversation.
Absolutely. Today I just really wanted to start with a quote
Mm.
because I feel like this quote for me this week has been really profound. And I think it is one of those things that speaks to like things are happening for me and not to me, and that we it- things aren't we aren't expected to be or do something in particular. And it's just maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you so that you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. And
Wow.
yeah, I feel like, we as humans really look around us to kind of become who we become. And that isn't where the connection should be, right? And maybe this is all about unbecoming all of those things that
Mm.
everybody thinks we should be and really diving into who we are. But I'm going to volley over to you. I just really
Oh,
wanted to start with that.
that so resonates. I don't know what it's been like for other people. So this is October 6th, 2024, and whether some people follow pieces that are going like there's a solar flare and there's a new moon and whatever all those things are. And as we have made reference to in another video where, I mean, not everything we're experiencing is something within us that like, and we said there's nothing wrong. Like even when we're not feeling so-called good, and we reference it like you said, from looking outside of us, looking around us, believing whatever we believe about where we're trying to get to. And in that process, we are leaving ourselves behind. We're going out there. And then if, and based on what you and I believe that we've brought in so much to this podcast, like the foundation of going inward to connect with all that we are. And we are connected to all out there as if there isn't really, because our form, I don't know if we've mentioned this right or not, but like we're in a physical experience, but our form doesn't really have the edges we think. That's been shown. You get up close and there's whatever molecules, atoms, like all that makes us up. But we are having a real physical experience. And with that comes discomfort, pain, and maybe even suffering. So if we're doing this striving to become, to do, to achieve, to change, and we're disconnected and lost from all that we truly are. And then, of course, not feeling the love for self. So it's a dance, it's a juggling act, a balancing act. And I can share without a lot of details, this week's been an interesting ride for kind of ups and downs and nothing really big. But I know I have the awareness, oh, well, I'm not feeling great in whatever way, mood wise often. And I know it doesn't mean I'm not okay, but the part of me that wants it to be okay just keeps wanting to go, well, go get a session with someone or do more meditation and none of those things are wrong because you can't get it wrong. But again, that the consciousness of what we are holding and focusing on. And that's what I love about coming together to have these conversations, because I have found my way to other people's teachings. I haven't seen anything quite like this because you and I were unique, and but the topics of this have really helped me to realize it's not about there's something wrong with me. There's some beliefs that parts of me hold. And they're real for those parts. And often, right, we're taught to just push it all down, just think positive, just focus on the good. And there's a time and a place for that. We've talked about that in that one episode. Like there is, because we don't want to be lost in all of this.
Mhm.
And it's getting that space to realize we are a pure divine consciousness, divine beings. And we don't really resonate with that when we're in our struggle. And that's just how this is going to be. But I feel like I'm expanding more and more all the time with that awareness. But what that takes is my making the quiet time to be with all that I am.
Mhm.
And then I play with going beyond my body and consciousness, like different references. And it's, but I remember earlier on, I really wanted to do that a lot, but that was like an escape,
Mhm.
right? We just, like you mentioned, that might have even been last time. It's like, well, why would you want to come back to this challenge and struggle? And people talk about that on their awakening journey.
Mhm.
But we're trying to bring in, and then this last piece, and I'll pass it to you, about this is an adventure and a journey that we are meant to be on. So pass that to
Absolutely. Like
you.
so many things that you have just mentioned, like are so true. And I speak again, you gave the date. It's October the 6th, 2024. And in the last week, there has been major disasters that have happened in my home state, and some other states in the South. And there is so much unrest, right? Like, and that energy that is happening from all of that, right? Like, um, so much destruction, so much loss, so much just pain, filtering into a week that did have all of those solar flares and a new moon and all of that. And I think, and then there's and I'm not going to go any kind of political way with this. That's not how I mean it. But there's also those political entities that are fighting about the recovery in this, right? So we're seeing so much energetic imbalance that's happening. And lots of people are tied to that area in some way, or they have family there, or they have friends there, or whatnot. Like there is so many people impacted by this disaster that happened last weekend. And what happens, we've talked so much about energy, right? And how it feeds out and it feeds in, and all of this. And you take something on such a grand scale, such a large scale, that many people can't even comprehend the scale of it, that towns are completely gone. um, and that amount of loss, that amount of sadness, that energy does filter into the universe, right? And so there has been a lot of this um, sadness energy. It is not dark. This is very, people should be sad, right? Like that's not discounting that at all, but that sadness energy filtering in when the solar system and things were already a little bit crazy. That's a lot for us to take in, even if we don't realize those things are impacting us. Maybe you don't have anyone who that was impacted by this. However, we are all impacted by collective energy, right? And I kind of went to the side a little bit. I want to bring it back to that piece of being outside oneself and needing to be inside oneself, right? I think in times when the collective energy has been through something so horrific, um, it is really now, don't hear this wrong. Yes, I want us to help our fellow people that have been through such a horrendous thing. but the best time of going internally
Mhm.
is when the energetic collective is kind of chaotic, is kind of
Mhm.
sad, and all of that. Because if we're not going in and connecting with ourselves, then it's really hard to get ourselves back in balance.
Mhm.
Because, I've talked so much through several episodes about this energy connection, right? And the the only thing that changes the shift of that energy collectively is when we are able to radiate out those positive light energies, healing energies into
Mhm.
the collective itself too. So
Mhm.
I in that when we're going internally and we're connecting with self and we are really caring for self, and I understand it's the hardest time when we feel out of balance, in which to, I use the word self-love. It's the hardest time, but in those hardest times
Mhm.
are it's so important that we are hugging ourselves, like, and comforting ourselves. And,
Yes.
I had mentioned in a previous episode about um, someone I had worked with that I had told them about getting a pillow, right? And just hugging the child inside of them. Well, it's kind of the same concept, right? Like, it is comforting your internal self in a time that things feel wonky.
Mhm.
Um, and we need to I need to say this. So, something that I've said to so many people that I've worked with, whether that was in therapy or it was in spiritual work, I've said it across the board. When many times people, and this, I don't want anybody to feel like this minimizes how difficult self love is. That's not how I mean it. But many times being asked, well, how do I even do that? And, you know, a simplistic answer to that is, well, how do you love your child? How do
Mhm.
you love your animal? How do
Mhm.
you love your spouse? Do that. That Give yourself
Mhm.
everything that you're giving to those other people, right? And
Mhm.
again, I'm not minimizing how difficult this is, but if your spouse feels loved because you bake them a cake, right?
Mhm.
Well, you go inside, and what it is that feels love to yourself, then you do that. Like, if you like to have cake, bake yourself a cake.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and again, I'm not saying eat your feelings.
Mhm.
Don't anybody hear that. But it's really, I am making something very difficult, very simplistic. I understand that. But it really is, when we break it down, it comes down to that. Like, however we would love our child, however we would love our dog, however we would love our spouse, do that for yourself
Mhm.
and give yourself the same grace. When my son messes up, like, I give him all kinds of grace. Why don't I give that to myself when I mess up?
Mhm.
And so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Those things that we can implement for ourselves in self-love. Um, Take all the busyness out of it, take all the difficulty out of it, and literally do for yourself what you would do for someone else. We very rarely do that for ourselves.
Right, and we were never taught that was even a thing.
Yep.
And what was just popping in to say, and if you have more to say, that's great. The perception that it's difficult. Why is anything difficult? We just don't know how to do it.
Yes.
It's new. We might feel confused.
Yep.
And the parts in the mind will make it to be like, it's this big thing I got to learn. What are the steps? And I love that you just right on a platter offered how it is simple. And there's so many options, from doing something physical for yourself. Could be a bath, it could be whatever. But, not just to make an assumption on all women, but like there's a lot of us women. We're doing it all, we come last.
Yep.
We're the caregivers, and especially if we have children, and I get it, I have a child too. She's older now, but oh my gosh, when she was little, I burned myself to the ground. I got sick, had to learn to care for myself. And that's, well, I won't tangent off into that. That could be another, probably conversation for another time. But, and that's also what I love about like this piece of going inward. It is, and what I do with my clients, and I practice this, is we have little ones inside of us.
Mhm.
Many people may have heard about inner child, and there's lots of talk about inner child work, and I am not referencing that, but we have these little ones that feel alone, and
Yeah.
they just want, so when we cultivate, and this is what I love about heart coherence and why I use it, why I got trained in it, is that the moment, as one example, you put your hand on your heart, it starts lighting up. And this is measured, and I'm going to link it to what you're talking about, the collective too. Just as an example, Joe Dispenza does a worldwide walk for the world. Anyone could do this on their, even if you get together with a group of people and you light up your hearts, it is measured. The magnetic resonance can be seen from whatever equipment they use from up above. That's fascinating. And that allows us, like, again, connecting with what you said about, and you didn't say it in these words, but like going in to care for ourselves so that we have it to give to others, so that we do have it to help the collective. But if we're burnt out, burning the candle at both ends, as they say, it's like we don't. So helping to learn and treat ourselves first. And that's not an easy task or process. And again, we make it hard because it's just so hard. But going into the little ones inside, and there's lots of wonderful tips about that. I love to help people with that. You do that in your way. Like it's just, it's so helpful. And the thing we don't do is stop and pause. And the other thing I would say is a lot of it's because parts of us do not want to feel the feelings that, like the sadness you're talking about. People don't want to feel the sadness,
Mhm.
but we are here to highly encourage and do it safely. Anyone with mental health struggles, right? Suicidality, any of that stuff, please do it safely with your therapist. Please, please, please. And so anything we share for general tips and tools, whatever, like if it's something new and you're like, uh-oh, I don't, then please keep yourself safe. Like that's so important. But I invite in our feelings don't need to be feared. But if they're so overwhelming, they are, don't just go dive in, right? But we really want to empower people.
Mhm.
Be there for yourself. And the lovely thing about whether it's through heart, energy lit up or whatever, we have a core higher self that is connected to all that is. Even if we connect with that 5% and be there for the child rather than we become, because we can be in that energy if we become all of that pain.
Mhm.
And then it's like we're immersed in it. And I
Mhm.
love to teach about some spaciousness. And we can do that in different ways with another live human, with a guided whatever meditation. I mean, there's so many options. So I'll pass that over to you. Beautiful things that are coming up here that are so, so important. I'm so glad that we're sharing these here together.
I have to tell you, one of the things that was screaming at me, right, as you were talking was I wish that we taught this to our children, right?
Oh,
Because
yes.
think about what we have learned in putting ourselves first. We have learned that when we're on an airplane, if the masks fall down, we put it over our face first before we help anybody else, right? That is learned. We do it in that situation. Like I literally have chills right now because we if we had been taught from day one about loving self and filling self up like we were taught to put the mask on your self first, right? And everybody knows that and they do that, right? Like if it's that simple, right? It's that same, I the oxygen mask thing in a plane was something that my mother said to me a lot when I was burning myself out. I have adopted children, foster children, all, really difficult situations at times. And she would say this to me a lot, and I would get really irritated, like but it was before I was connected and realized we were trained this. This was
Right,
something that taught us to put ourselves first before we helped somebody else.
right,
And what is that about? That's about that if I'm not breathing, I
right,
can't help my child or my spouse or the disabled person beside me, whoever it is in the plane, right? And
right.
so that concept everyone can grasp.
Mhm. Yes,
This is that concept.
yes.
This is you have to give yourself oxygen first before you continue to give to other people.
Mhm.
So going inside and feeding and filling up self, it's
Yes.
not narcissistic, it's not self-centered. It literally is about being able to have the power in which to resonate for somebody else what they need. So,
Yeah.
like you said, as people who are caregivers and healers, and whether you're female or male, I don't care. Like, if that's built into you and you've always just burned yourself out helping everybody else, it's
Mhm.
because you're not tending to yourself first. And
Right.
it's okay. It's not selfish. This is
Mhm.
not a
Mhm.
selfish
Mhm.
act.
Mhm.
This is the literally the most compassionate and empathetic thing you can do for
Mhm.
yourself and other people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm going to volley back to you.
Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. And why that doesn't come naturally is because it's not taught.
Yes.
We're born, and to bring it back to where we started in this conversation, so to speak, is we're taught, look out there, obey your parents, and we need all that. Like we've got to have that container for, like, because we're little beings whose brains don't even develop till our late 20s, they say now. And so we need to get approval, so to speak, of others in all the things. And like you said, I mean, it's my total wish that children would begin to be taught this even in school.
Yeah.
Like, you little person, you matter, not just do what I say or else. And
Yes.
so this is where we are so passionate to bring these conversations to the world, whether someone's never heard them before or they have, and it's another lovely reminder. Because it's like, why wouldn't we matter just as much as anyone else? And I don't know about others, but I don't have an answer to that. It just is. It's just always been
Yeah.
until uh, I know I'm taking very conscious effort to unlearn and
Hmm.
shift that. It's okay to say no to things you don't want to do. I know that it depends on what those are, but saying yes out of obligation or guilt. Because the other piece I was going to share is the concept of appreciation, which to me is very relatable to love. And doing for ourselves is appreciating. I don't have to earn the privilege to get to go do something fun, whether or not I've done the so-called chores. Like, I'm the adult. Of course, it's easier when we're adults. We're not speaking about children who have to kind of follow the guidelines of whoever they're being raised by and whatnot. But we do have the power in our adult life,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so and we're not saying, oh, well, because we're saying this, you all listeners should be able to go just make that happen. There can be a lot of resistance,
Hmm.
and that's another experience to love. And
Yep.
that's what people can say, well, that's really hard. Yeah, because we've just never done it. Because the one who's judging whatever about the self needs the love, and it doesn't know how to give the love. So if we're in it consumed by that judgmental part, let's say, we need to connect to that higher self and then be there for that. Because that part's, it's a younger one. I'm not saying they're all little ones. I don't know. But I do a lot of this kind of exploring of parts, and it's really fascinating, but they're always younger. They were created to protect us. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with the one who's judging. Why
Hmm.
is it judging, right? They're all trying to help. I mean, everything's to help us. Like we said, it's for us. And it's more and more to be seen. But if it doesn't feel tolerable to just be, okay, they said this, I'd love to sit and whoa, for the first time, that could be really big. So just realize. even if it's just an idea and you sit down or whatever, and you take a few breaths, you put your hand on your heart, or you walk outside, or you maybe have a little one who does want a cake, and you're like, okay, probably hardly ever bake herself a cake or whatever it might be. Such a, it can be such a gift. And if you go in with the intention to honor that you are doing this for yourself, it will be some different kind of experience than what we've ever had before. No, so we're probably moving to some sort of closure, but like anything else you want to share is beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's just really knowing that we are guided, we are supported beyond this physical realm. And, I'll just kind of leave it at, everything that is supporting us from beyond this physical realm wants us to be happy, to be joyful, to love self, to be successful, however you define that. Like, again, success is not about a job title, it's not about money, it's not about any of those things. Whatever that looks like for you on your journey, we have all of those things supporting us and guiding us. And when we tune more in with self internally, we begin to come into a higher level of consciousness and begin to understand that everything is so much bigger than what we
Mm-hmm.
see right here. Um,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
that support, that love, is so unlike anything that happens in the physical realm. And it can teach us how in which to love ourselves, because it just fills us up with knowledge and intuition and wisdom and direction. Again, we have free will, we have free choice, but no one wants to see us suffer. No one. And
Right.
connecting with self leads to these grander, higher levels of consciousness. So it's really step one
Mhm.
in the journey of opening up to everything. You know, I say everything. I don't even think I even have a concept of a third of what is there, right? Like, and that's with all that I do and all that I see and all that I know. I
Right.
think it's so still far beyond my own comprehension. Um, but it is step one. The base is really about uh, loving self and connecting with self so that we are able to hear, see, and do all those loving, wonderful things that we're
Mhm.
being so guided and supported with.
Oh, how beautiful. Perfect. Perfect. What a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, Stacy.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that we will continue to build on this, right? But this is really start
Beautiful.
today. There's no reason to not start today.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Mm.
Thanks for being with us. Again, if you are struggling with mental health, please make sure that you are connecting with your mental health person or persons. And don't forget that there is a national hotline, 988. If you need it, utilize it. Um, we are here if you need us. Please reach out. But again, if it's an emergency crisis situation, please connect with those people. We want everything beautiful for you. Um,
Mhm.
and we want to be with you in that journey. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye for
For
now.
now.